Turning now to Utah, where the man convicted of killing a 19-year-old farmer learned his fate today. James Brenner had reportedly been squatting on a remote property near Rounds' farm at the time of his disappearance in 2022. That's Dylan Rounds, the victim in this case. He was arrested after a pair of boots were found near the property that contained Rounds' blood and Brenner's DNA. Now, additionally, during the investigation, officials found a time-lapse video showing Brenner cleaning a gun with bloodstains on his arms and his shirt. Now, the shirt in the video was later seized and tested positively for Rounds' DNA. Scripps News Salt Lake City brings us a quick recap on the case.
In that case, as to count one murder, a second-degree felony to that charge. How do you plead? Guilty.
James Brenner's guilty plea is part of a plea agreement where he revealed the location of Dylan's remains.
And forensic analysis revealed bullet holes to Dylan's skull, which was the result of defendant shooting him in the head.
Is that what happened in this case? Yes, sir.
Candace Cooley says her son moved to Lucin to pursue his dreams of being a farmer.
He would sit in his underwear out our big bay window and wait for his dad or grandpa to pick him up at 2 years old after he ate his oatmeal to go farm. Yeah, he was a good kid.
Since his disappearance, the family has relied heavily on community support and help from the Missing in America network.
It gets to us personally in a sense that we just want to help. We want to fix the problem. And so it's important that we have this strength together to help everyone.
Brenner's first-degree aggravated murder charge was dropped to second-degree murder because of the plea deal. He also pleaded guilty to 2 firearm felonies. He's looking at 3 to 30 years in prison.
And today, Brenner was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison for each of the 3 charges that he pled guilty to.
The one thing I will say is I will ask Mr. Brenner, if you would, I would like you to stand, and I would like you to face them, if you would do that.
Like that in your honor, I'd like to know who you mean.
Yes, the gallery.
Is that a order, or is that a request?
It's a request. I'm asking if Mr. Brenner will do that.
Your honor, I decline with respect to you. But I'll stand.
All right. Mr. Brenner, some of the things that were disturbing to me was that the family was looking for Dylan. You would come around, you would smile and talk with them, knowing full well what had happened, knowing full well what you had done, knowing full well where his body lay, and acted as if nothing happened. My request for you to turn and look at the gallery is similar to something like that. A simple decency. And I think the 3 words that I heard through the letters came through with what was described here. Builder, dreamer, visionary. I don't believe you are those in any respect, Mr. Brenner. That's unfortunate. I wish I could do something more. I understand when this plea was offered and was taken, it was with the consent of the family in an effort to bring closure. So there is nothing more that I can do other than what has been agreed upon. Based on the 3 second-degree felonies, it will be the order of the court to be served 1 to 15 years on each one of those. Those are run consecutive. I will give you credit for the time you served only on those 2 cases, 171 and 110. No other cases. This is in accordance with the agreement, and I want to respect the family with that. And so I'm following that agreement. But I am going to recommend to the parole board that they keep you as long as they legally can. And that's my recommendation to the parole board. I think that's the only leeway I have in the sentencing to offer the family. have to read his sentence.
All right, so a total of 30 years before he'll be eligible for parole. Brenner actually declined to speak during today's sentencing. Here's what the victim's father had to say in his victim impact statement.
I didn't write any speech or anything. I didn't really even know what I was going to say until I got here. I mainly wanted to talk to Jim, and when this all started, when you got arrested, I asked the FBI agent kind of if he knew anything about your past, Jim, to see it. But I guess I was trying to figure out a way to forgive it. And then we went to where you laid Dylan, where you tried to bury him. And I asked the same FBI agent if you showed any remorse. And he said you showed no remorse whatsoever that he could see. And he just tried to blame everything on circumstances and whatever. Like I said, I didn't write anything down. I just want you to know what you took away. Not just from me, or his mom, or his brother, and sister. You took away someone who was willing to be active in society and contribute to society. As far as I can tell, in your whole entire life, you've never contributed to society once. Dylan helped you out so many times, whether it be hauling sugar beets or potatoes or whatever, and this is how you repay him. I just basically hope that you, for the rest of your life, will think about this. And if a 3 to 30 year comes about and you get out, it'd probably be the worst thing that ever happened to you, Jim. And in that time, I know this is hard. I just hope the rest of your life you remember what you did and what you did, and I hope sometime you feel some remorse or some guilt. That's basically all I have to say. And I wasn't going to let you just come in here and limp like a little gimp and walk out with nobody saying anything to you at all. You don't have to look at anybody in the eye or even look at anybody, but turn around and look at the people who you've affected. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, let's bring back in our guest, still with us, Deputy Public Defender for Los Angeles County, Philip Dubé. Philip, first I just want to touch on the fact that, this is a case where a plea deal was done. And I must say, when we talk about plea deals, and I look at the amount of years this guy got for the crime that he committed and the fact that he hid it for so long, hid the body, couldn't give the family closure, I don't necessarily have a problem. He's 60 years old, so 30 years is basically a life sentence for this guy. And also, if you're going to use a plea, this is a great way to do it, because even though it's not a lot of years, this plea allowed this family to get their loved one and the remains of their loved one back, know where that person was. I think it was worth it. Your thoughts on the plea in this case?
Yeah, I think it was a fair outcome, frankly. He was lucky, actually. And the reason why is, imagine if he would have done this at age 25, facing an indeterminate sentence, he would have spent decades longer than 30 years in prison. First of all, his life expectancy would be greater. But the other thing that he did too is he spared the family the agony of having to go through the trial, hear all the gruesome details of how their son died. It was actually the right outcome. Justice was served. And I got to tell you, Michael, I have an issue with proportional justice across this country. Listen, this is a homicide. Even as a public defender, I have no problem people going to prison doing their time. The real question is, what is proportional justice? How much time should it be? I think a message can be sent to a 61-year-old that you're not getting out at least until you're age 91, and whatever is left, whatever whatever life is left for him is not going to be quality life. I think justice was served under the circumstances.
Yeah, fair enough. And I agree as well. I think those things, that the age of the individual should absolutely be taken into account. But here's one thing I do have an issue with here, Philip. When you take a plea deal, as you know, during that plea deal, you waive your right to appeals, et cetera, et cetera. There was no reason why this man could not have spoken in court and said something to the family, to the court, just showing a little remorse. I would have even tried to require it under the circumstances, but it wasn't, and he chose not to speak. What's your interpretation of that?
There are many reasons why our clients choose not to speak. First and foremost, many of them are inarticulate. Many of them are just so inarticulate, uneducated, unschooled. They don't even know how to formulate a cogent sentence and come off believable and sympathetic. And if you have those types of speaking patterns, the victims and the representatives of the victims might take it as being insincere, and it can come off quite offensive. I think the fact that he has taken responsibility, avoided the trial, led the family to that son's remains speaks volumes about his character. And I don't think the family really wanted to hear anything he had to say anyway. I think it would have rang hollow.
At the end of the day, you know, these cases, you know, it's about justice, it's about bringing justice and closure to the family. As I said earlier, I think it's fair to say that the outcome of this case absolutely provides that for the family. And going back to your point about proportional justice, you know, you can't focus too much on the years in a case like this, because again, I believe it was a just outcome.
Oh, yeah, I do too. In fact, I don't think it could have gotten any better, because let's just pretend that he rejected the plea deal, put the family through the trial, he's convicted, and now you're going to have years and years of appeals before the conviction is either affirmed or reversed. Imagine errors being made at the trial level, and 10 years from now, the whole matter is reversed on a federal habeas petition, and having to relive the whole nightmare 10 years from now, only to find out they don't even have the witnesses anymore, and maybe he wins a dismissal because they don't have the proof to retry him. So in a way, you know, it's just better all around for everybody. The state benefits, the family benefits, and certainly, oh, he got an early stocking stuffer, because I'm telling you, 30 years for a murder is a gift, especially in California. You killed by firearm in this state, you are looking at a minimum of 40 to life, minimum.
Yeah, no doubt it was a good deal. But again, I think everyone wins. James Brenner, again, going to spend the next 30 years behind bars before he's even eligible for parole. Doesn't mean he's going to get it. He will be about 90 when that comes around. Exactly. So don't even know if he's going to last that long. All right, Philip, stand by. We'll take a break up next.